since the opportunity to visit with you came up, I've had the opportunity to look around a little bit, and one of the things that I came across was, would you do me a favor, grab that chair and just move it out of the way in the middle, is the story about your, I guess it was your first job as a paper boy.
Yeah.
That was my first job too, throwing the Dallas Times-Herald when I was, I guess, about 13, something like that. But you told the story about wanting to sell it. Would you share that with me?
I'll be happy to. In the little rural town that I was in, we had a distributor that dropped off the Lubbock Avalanche Journal every day, and I was able to get the paper route from a family friend who were moving out of town, and I was delighted because it gave me a lot of opportunities that I didn't realize were going to come with it. One was I was an independent businessman, and I had to deal with my distributor. I had to settle with him ever so often, and the truck would drop off the papers at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I would get to roll them in Shorty Hogan's barber shop, who gave me a pass key where I could get in, and I'd get to roll them and get on my bike and then ride to town and throw the papers. Then I also had to collect for the papers. So I found out several things, that people don't always do what they say they will do. They sometimes forget to pay the paper boy, and sometimes they try to intimidate the paper boy. So there were a lot of life lessons there. I found out also that I could sell subscriptions and get people to buy the paper. They didn't tell me that when I started, so I increased the circulation considerably during my time, and came time I had another job offer that was going to interfere with that, so I was going to move up, so you say, and by that time I was probably about 13, and there was a businessman in town, and his son was in my class, and really kind of a lazy guy, and not very active kind of guy. But the father came to me and said, I understand that you're wanting to sell your paper route, and I'd like to talk to you about it. And I made a deal with him to sell him my paper route for $50. So the distributor comes down to make the transfer, settle with me, meet the new delivery family, and of course the man's son was standing there like a wooden statue. His father did all the talking, and his father asked the distributor, who was a really neat guy, he said, you know, we don't really know anything about the business side of this, but Red has told us that $50 is a fair price for this business, and I'd just like to check with you and see if that is if that's a fair price, if we're paying a fair price. And the distributor said, well, I'm sorry, there's a little misunderstanding. We don't allow selling of routes. We, as a distributor, we pick a delivery person, but we don't sell routes. I was stunned. I didn't know that. And the man I was selling it to said, well, Red, I guess that's that. We'll settle up with the distributor here, and so I guess we can't pay you anything for the route. I said, well, if that's your decision, you won't get the route. I'll keep it. And at that point, the distributor, I guess, had second thoughts, and he said, Red, come walk outside with me a minute. And we walked out and closed the door, and he said, you know, what I've said in there is the way we operate, but he said, I wish I hadn't said it, because he said, I can see that you had already sold it to him, and he was happy to get it and pay you for it. But he said, we really don't allow it, but I've got a solution for this, so come on back in with me. So we walked back in, and he said, well, just a little misunderstanding in semantics. He said, Red understands that he can't sell you the route, but he is certainly willing to be an advisor consultant to you and your son, so you can go ahead and pay him the $50.
As a fee.
So I got my $50 for my paper route, and the guy didn't get to beat a kid out of the $50. But it's a little part of learning, growing up, and
an introduction into the whole process
yes,
of making deals,
absolutely.
which you made some.
I am a deal freak. I'm a deal junkie. I always have been. I like to buy, sell, or trade, and I'll do it almost anything, anytime. It's always worked fairly well for me, including today. So it's been a very good day.
Well, speaking of today and this day and time, Dave and I had an opportunity to visit about this earlier when we were talking. You know, business per se, particularly banking business, I guess, at this point, but business in general, from Enron to Wall Street and back again. There is a climate, it seems to me, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong, but it seems to me there is a climate in which business is not necessarily held to a high regard. Is that fair?
I think it's more than fair. I would go even further. I think that many leaders in business have lost their way. There is nothing that should be dishonorable about doing business, because when you're doing business, you're supplying a product or service to someone for a price, and it's a very competitive world out there. You've got to do a good job at what you do, or you won't have your customers. But I think one of the things that we've got to explain to the world right now is, if capitalism is in fact the absolute best way to go as a form of an economic system, and all of us here believe it is, why have we gone so far astray? Why have we gone to the point to where you see the greatest industrial complex in the world for 75 years, General Motors, not only go bankrupt in a business that America invented and then grew for the rest of the world, and not only go bankrupt, but go bankrupt and not even know they were bankrupt. Something's wrong with that picture. Now, at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Whether you're a one-man shop or whether you're General Motors, you've got management and you've got ownership. Sometimes it's the same. Most of the times it isn't. Most of the time, ownership or shareholders in management is selected by directors. We have to answer to the people of the world, not just America, what goes wrong here. I was asked after the Enron blow up that I feel like we should have some special courses in the business school in ethics. I said, no, I don't think we need special courses. I think every professor should teach ethics in whatever his discipline is. We don't have to have a special ethics course. Of course, I didn't prevail in that, I might add, because those that make the decisions. And one thing you find out, you can make big gifts to a school and they'll put your name on it and all that, but you still don't get to run the school. So that was something that I didn't think was necessary, and I still don't think it's necessary.